All right, let's take a look at some just like learning stations for larger groups, like, 34, 35 students. It's a harder situation, and it's a lot harder if you've got a small classroom. So let's talk about that a little bit. Well, this is what you're going to have to kind of do if you've got 34, 35 students in your classroom. You're going to have to arrange your classroom in a certain way so that all of the students can work together, but they also need to be able to see the main large screen television in the classroom. To have a front of a classroom, so like here's the teacher, and behind the teacher here somewhere would be the large screen TV. You could get like 6 this way. You wouldn't want to put kids there because they would have their backs to you. So the idea is to seat them so that they can interact with each other and collaborate, but also be able to see the front of the classroom at the same time. In this model below here, you could put the teacher like here, you could put the television in the middle, this way students all around the room can see. The only thing with this one is that it kind of makes it a little bit harder. The teacher is walking around inside here and then has to come out and walk all the way around. You're blocked a little bit from your mobility inside your classroom, and also your students are blocked a little bit, unless you were to be able to open up this area here in the middle a little. So, but these are 2 ideas of arranging, your students. So you're either looking at like 4 in a pod or 5. And ideally, if your classroom was large enough, doing pods of 3 is the ideal optimal number. You get 4 and 5, and often there's a couple of students who aren't working the way that they should be because the others are doing it. So, take all that into consideration with the space that you have in your classroom. All right. This is just if you were to create a rotation schedule just straight up, the first one is rotating every 15 minutes, allowing like a 5-minute rotation. So, topic 1, you've got your class broken into groups, and you're just rotating with 5 minutes in between for the movement. And this one is kind of like if you were to divide your classroom up into 2 groups, like one half went one way and the other half went another. That's another idea. There's lots of different ways to do learning stations and rotate your classroom. And I like this one a lot. So you'll get all of this in the slide decks that I'm going to give you. So this one is kind of based on the idea of a music playlist, which gives the students a whole lot of autonomy. They're going to do all the work anyhow, but it's kind of cool when you put it into a playlist and let them shuffle it. So it means like they can choose what they want to work on when, and it gives them a lot more student voice. So if you have a project that could work, I really advise trying it because the students will respond to this. There's some links on here as well. All of these links are hyperlinked for you so you can follow them and get more ideas. I have ideas for math here, and I have article for you on the playlist versus choice boards, because choice boards are another great option for giving the students some voice in what they're going to do when. So check this out. And then this one is super helpful, not only in having successful small groups, but also having successful small groups that involve English language learners. So the idea here is to use what's called talking chips. And when you look at the graphic there, those are the golden, the red, the blue, and the purple. Just little, round paper It could be laminated, it could be actual chips, it could be counting beans of different colors. It's whatever you want it to be, but we're calling it talking chips. So the idea here is that every student will be participating. And when you look at the graphic, you have an overall set of directions on what the talking chip exercise is. It's on that blue piece of paper. You don't have to have that every single time, but what you do have to have is what's on the white piece of paper, which is the directions for what you want them to do when they're at that station using those talking chips. So what's the activity? They need to have that, and you can see that it's for both sides. Like if there were 4 students there, that way all the students can see the directions. It's not just one student who's telling everybody else how it's going to be. They need to have access to all the information. But what's recommended is that you have a conversation captain. And you can see that over here under the Talking Chips words in the blue. It says Talking Chips Conversation Captain. I have that for you in a slide. I'll show it to you in just a minute. So this would be like a kind of a paper that's on the desk. You pick one student who's the captain of the team, and that student's job is to make sure that everybody's productive and that they all participate and that it's done fair and ethically. So the idea here is that everybody's going to speak. So we all read what the assignment is. So let's say we're collaborating and talking. So I have my talking chips and I want to talk. So when it's my turn to talk, I place my talking chip on the table. That means that I've used one of my talking chips. So I say what I want to say and then I stop. And I listen now to what the next student who lays their talking chip down on the table has to say. And what it means is that every student in the group is going to talk. The requirement is that you use all of the talking chips. So that way your English language learners have to get the bravery going so that they can contribute to the conversation as well. There's no right or wrong answers, but everybody contributes. So it's a simple strategy, works really well to get conversation going and to keep the students' attention fixed on what they're doing, and also practice active listening. There's also a self-evaluation form that you might want to take advantage of, and that means that after the activity, the students evaluate their participation in their group using those talking chips. And so I've got that there for you as well. And this is a really cool activity. And I highly recommend that maybe you laminate some of those chips so that you can use them over and over. And then this is you would just print this out. This is what goes on the desk for the conversation captain. That way the other students know exactly what that person's responsibility is. And you know what? You can rotate that responsibility. It doesn't have to be the same person every single time. So there's that option as well. And then I've got the chips for you. So all you have to do is print this out, stick it in a cutter so that you get all of one color together, cut them all up and maybe paper clip them. I probably would laminate this first and then cut them. I just cut mine into squares. I didn't even try to cut them into rounds. If you want them in the round, have some students with some really great cutting skills help you out. But these are the talking chips. This is an example. I wanted to make sure I got this in. This is an example of the offline station. Remember when I was talking to you about talking chips? So this was the team discussion for talking chips. So you don't need to answer the questions in order, and you do not need to get to every question. So it's just a conversation going on amongst the students within their group using the talking chips. So I just created some questions, but this is what it would look like. You would have questions that were related to whatever the topic was that you were teaching. But just a bunch of questions there. You will have this as part of this document. And I think that's what I have for you today on some ideas that you could do with larger groups and how to arrange your classroom and how to do some things that are different than, say, choice boards and all of that.